Well, that was quite the intro. Thank you, Brian. This is our first foray into live streaming on this platform. But welcome to the 2025 Tire Rack One Lap of America, presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine, with coverage this year brought to you by HP Tuners. As always, Brock is super prompt, as you can see, for the name which bears his name, but he should be joining us shortly if he can figure out how to get on here. So if he's watching, turn your computer sideways, maybe that will work. Oh, here he is, Brock Unverified. So this is a very special recording for us. And without further ado, here's Brock.
Sorry, wow, boys and girls. I was out walking the dog.
Okay, there we go. It's gotten brighter. That's good. You were kind of very ominous for a moment.
Well, I like to be that. I mean, it keep people from knocking on my door asking for stupid shit.
So the good news is that this is not going to be marked for children. So feel free to swear, do whatever you want. You can be completely you, not to worry.
Not worried at all. Thank you.
Good. Well, welcome. It's lovely to see you for the event which bears your name.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Dad.
I feel old enough.
Well, we have some things to talk with you about, but why don't you just kind of give your introduction to everybody who might know who you are or might have forgotten who you are, since we haven't seen you on here for a while, and let us know a little bit about yourself.
There's a reason I've been on for a while, because I hate being on for a while. But hi, I'm Brock Yates. I run this silly event.
That's a man of many words. So,
well, what do you expect? It some sort of lengthy diatribe about how wonderful the event has been for 41 years.
I mean, from a marketing standpoint, it'd be lovely, but sure. No, I mean, John Harrison takes the cake for the longest intro so far this year. His went on at I think 26 minutes, which was awesome.
And Brock's less than 26 seconds.
That was
hey, it's longer than I planned on.
We're not going to touch that one. Okay, so let's dive into this, shall we? So we've spoken with you. We did the shorts a couple of years ago, asking you a bunch of questions, and for whatever reason, people liked those. So we're going to go and ask some of the things that were a little more popular. Obviously, this is being recorded as well, so it will live on for posterity's sake. So, be mindful of this. So I want to kick off by going back in time, right? So let's go back to young Brock when the ponytail was short, the mustache was much darker, and and the clothes were a lot more colorful, right? So the first time that you went across the country, paint us that picture. I mean, what was it like? What was going on? What were your thoughts around it?
Well, first of all, it was a lark, because what 14-year-old kid gets an invitation by his father to, let's drive across country, and during school days. I mean, it made no sense. Makes no sense now, but it was a great adventure. Being in New York City again as a kid was a wonderful thing, and then I got to visit with Steve Smith and at his apartment, and David E. Davis and a bunch of other folks. And leaving was pretty uneventful. I don't really remember much. It's kind of blurred together because it's pretty much flat. And we were driving, and I was in the back seat of a van. And it wasn't until later in the West that it started to really open up, and the vastness and the things that I see now have changed so much. The 2-lane roads, that were virtually across the country. I mean, we're all used to interstates where you get off every couple of miles and get gas and get a fucking McDonald's and a Hampton and whatever else is the normal routine at interstates. But before that, it was you're lucky to find gas stations. There was no hotels. Sometimes you'd see little vacancy signs flickering off in the distance. But no, in Albuquerque there was like 7 people living in Albuquerque when we drove through. I mean, anybody who's driven through there now has come across the top of the pass and seen the giant valley filled full of lights. And back then, there was nobody home. I mean, there was a little tiny spot of light where there's Route 66 had a stop sign and a right to follow at a bar. And then we got into the vastness of the California desert, and it was just empty, hot, and ugly. It was, but it got to Palos Verdes, of course, before the incredible overbuilding, and it was great to watch it change, amazement, and the country evolve over time. But I mean, that was there's a little bits and pieces of Americana that no longer there, like little gas stations and in the desert where the people that obviously weren't allowed to be in polite society opened up, and it had my first beef jerky and got to see a snake, exhibit and Gila monsters by just that was the gas station.
That's
run by
pretty neat.
some crazy lady that was stuck out in 190-degree temperatures day after day.
And again, and that's, I guess, and we'll get into that a little bit later in terms of how the country has changed, in terms of off ramps and just sort of as a whole, some specifics about it. But I mean, you touched on a lot of it there. But let's now shift to the front of the van there. So obviously, a lot of us are familiar with the public works that your dad did, the books, movies, the interviews, all the stuff that he's put out there over the years. But from your perspective, what was he like as his son in the back seat, looking at dad up front doing this stuff? I mean, what was he like there?
He was enthusiastic. He was careful. He was smooth as a driver. There was a lot of laughing because the other two people, Jim Williams and Steve Smith, were incredibly amusing people, very, very bright. And it was, there's a lot of bitching and moaning and checking for police and, the normal things you do when you're on a cross-country drive as fast as you think you can go in a 71 Dodge van. Which
cool.
wasn't very fast, by the way.
Well, and as we spoke about earlier today, vans and wind and things of that nature, right? So yeah. Even better time with bias ply tires, right?
Yeah, and even better, they put this trick shit little wing on the top of it, which back in the day looked kind of cool, but it actually sucked out the top speed and the mileage.
All right, Brian, what do you got for Dad?
So, over the years that the Cannonball was run, Senior drove some fairly interesting vehicles like the Daytona with Gurney, but the one I wanted to touch on was the Challenger that was prepped by Cotton Owens. How did that car come about, and how did the relationship between Senior and Cotton Owens begin with that car?
Brock was around stock car racing through the 60s. He and David Pearson were great friends. Actually, Pearson drove one of Brock's Dodge Dart at Marlboro and VIR. He didn't like the car, so he blew it up, but that was a different story.
Nice.
And Brock was pretty well respected and not immersed in that culture, but certainly I knew a lot of people, including Curtis Turner was his best friend, for example, at that point. I don't know how they got hooked up originally. I do know that I was at Cotton Owens' shop as a kid, probably just in that period, because I remember being at Marlboro, which has been long closed, but it was we stopped there, and I don't know if the car had been built already or was in the process, or this was well past it. Again, it all kind of blurs together. But he was a friend of Brock's, and there was somebody stopped in. The car it wasn't a body in white. It was just a base model Challenger that Brock managed to steal from Chrysler. I believe, more steel than paid, which is pretty much his routine. And Moon Mullins was the great PR man for Dodge back then, and he made a lot of things happen that Brock took advantage of. But um, Don really didn't do that much to it. He managed to put on this giant carburetor on the little 340. Why, nobody's quite sure. It was like an 800 CFM on a relatively stock 340. So I mean, there's way too much carburetor. But and then he lowered it a little bit. I don't know if the air dam was stock, but that was there. Put the fuel cell in. I had a little lip spoiler. Back then it had green vinyl top, which was really attractive. And they mounted some CBA lights that were way too low to be really effective, but they were on it anyway. And a CBE and normal stuff. But it was an interesting car. I mean, it was fast for the day.
Very cool. All righty. So staying on the topic there before we kind of start transitioning into a modern era and some comparisons, throughout all of the one lap cannonball road trips that you've done with Dad, what do you think, or what stands out as your favorite memory?
Of all of them?
All of them. Pick one.
Oh, Jesus.
Easy.
I mean, I'm certain the first one obviously has a special place in my heart because it affected my whole fucking life, and it threw a wrench into normal development and something that I can't fix, change, or get away from. I mean, virtually every time I drove cross country, which is 35, 36 times, there's something wonderful, weird, or awful happened. And, there's always stories. Being stuck in McLean, Texas in a sandstorm in an Opel GT was pretty memorable. But I suppose of all the ones that I shared with everybody else, the 2004 one lap when we went from Pikes Peak International to Sonoma to Sears Point, that'll stand out as one of the great drives of my life. Is we left Sears or Pikes Peak International and went into Colorado Springs, went up 24, I think it is, up in the mountains towards Breckenridge, and then and it was gorgeous. It was absolutely a gorgeous day. And we're coming down the western slope, and the sun's setting into Utah. And we had a full moon all the way up Death Highway, Route 6, through Salt Lake City, across the Great Salt Lake, across Nevada, and we had a sunrise in Donner Pass. And it was just a spectacular. Yes, it was a long trip. It was 1,200 miles, but it was, it was worth every penny to do it.
Excellent. That's it's got to have been pretty. And I mean that kind of starts to segue into the next bunch of questions. You spoke about how the landscape has changed. Everything has become very commercialized these days. You get off at an exit and they all relatively look the same. The mystery.
I defy you to find some change between them.
Right. I mean, is there, the days of will a gas station be open or not are largely gone. Yet, as we continue to keep this event running, there's still, I guess, that magic and the majesty to the country where people keep coming back year after year after year from first timers on. And so I suppose there's something very special about the event itself, the people, and the combination that keeps people coming back year after year. What do you think that is?
Well, there was a lot of reasons why, people come back every year. One of them is best exemplified by a quote by Mike Roberts that said, every year about this time, my medication runs out. And, the friends, the experience, the tracks, America all play a part of it, but I dare say the friends and the camaraderie are most important. But at the same time, I try to include memorable roads that you wouldn't normally be on or have an excuse to be on. Yeah, some of them are 4-lane and some of them aren't. This year we're going to have, if you follow the route book, which you better on a couple of occasions, um, you're going to be on US 58 for a very long time in Tennessee. And if you go I-40, it's going to be a lot longer with a lot of road closures because of the flooding and the fires. But it's going to be a much prettier run. It's going to be a gorgeous run. And then coming up through central Virginia is also one of the really pretty runs. Yes, there's a lot of policemen, but it's not 81, and it's a lot of not Americana, but it's a lot of the places you wouldn't normally see unless you're riding around following me.
Fair enough. All right, Brian, go for it.
So we put out some questions earlier, and we'll get into those. But you're talking about memorable roads, and you're talking about Virginia. I think one of my favorite drives ever. I was in high school, and we were coming back from New England and did Skyline Drive, and this was late 80s. I thought that was just an amazing road, and we had done the Parkway before, but something about Skyline Drive just kind of grabbed hold of me.
Oh, it's beautiful. If you stay off the interstates, there's beautiful highways everywhere. Dan Neal, my co-driver, will attest that running a Garmin out of EIR is not the smartest thing in the world, because we were on 200 miles of logging roads, and it was gorgeous. It was absolutely spectacularly pretty. And in the old days, we'd make the run from Pittsburgh to or someplace down 81, and then we'd come down to VIR. And there's a route called 501 that it's a logging road, and it's way, way too much fun. And the route book is an option. It's switchbacks, and it's really a mountain road. But one day I got caught on 81, and I decided, well, let's turn left and go down the center of the state. And again, absolutely gorgeous in a place that you'd never find unless you got irritated at traffic.
Very cool. All righty. So let's shift to to more of the today, right? So let's talk about the competitors of the one lap. So over the years, how have they changed, or have they, in your opinion?
Well, they really haven't. Some people are there everybody's there for a different reason. We have some professionals that needed to do well. Some factories that would like to do well. Tire companies have always supported us. We have people that spend way too much money for no particular reason. We have people that show up with, virtually no money at all, and everybody's the same. Everybody has fun. Everybody, helps everybody, and that part of it is enduring since the very beginning. What has changed, obviously, is that, whereas in the old days, every transit you'd stop 2-3 times to render aid to somebody, and that was pretty rare. It's unusual to. The last time I remember stopping for anybody was when Howard sucked the motor out of his car, but there was already, 4, 5, 6 cars there when I stopped.
Well, it's also because you've gotten to the point of where you just say, "Not my car, not my problem," and just keep going.
Well, I certainly I do that. I do say that, but I certainly do have enough compassion to diagnose the problem and then run away.
Do I like this person? No.
No, actually, I can honestly say that I have, even for people that I had, somebody that rode with Solomon years ago had a little highway incident, and I did stop for him, diagnose his problem, and drive off.
If I recall correctly, the problem that we had at the time was my co-driver.
Your co-driver who was complaining about the faulty tire And I looked at him and said, no, that tire worked its ass off all week to save your fucking life, and you're lucky.
It wasn't just that one, though. It was also the spare tire, which had gone on there, which we had requested, please do not go over 60 miles an hour because this is not made for that. And then of which I finally got in the passenger seat to get some sleep, and then subsequently felt a boom, thud, 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 thud. And I kept my eyes closed thinking, this is how I die. And made it to the side, and it was actually Honda, because that was the first year, I think they brought the minivan. And if I'm
I
not
would have
mistaken,
popped 5 mechanics and
yeah,
yeah.
and they stopped and helped because he had gotten it so hot that the lug nuts actually were seized onto the wheel there. So yeah, wonderful thing that I try and forget and drink myself heavily.
But I did stop for him too, just so
Yep.
the record shows that I may hate it, but no, but everybody,
That's on your list, isn't he? Because you got 3, right?
the last year the only car I stopped for was we're coming into Kansas City, and you could going to be a big as Steve Loudon said, it was very expensive with all the little dings in his car. But I drive by, and all of a sudden there's a Corvette by the on ramp. Oh shit, he's broken. So I back up furiously, and I said, "The fuck?" He says, "We're just waiting out the storm." I said, "You're going to be here a while. Have a nice day." And hammered off.
Yeah, pretty intense storms last year, and we'll see what this year brings. But there's always something, right? We're in that part of the country.
That time of year, we're going to the same place.
All right. So staying on that topic for a second, we now know one of your hate, because I know you have a list of 3 who are persona non grata from the event, but let's go with your most memorable car or team combination from the past 41 years.
No, I don't think those are fair questions, because everybody brings something good and something stupid to the event.
Okay.
And and some of it's really subtle and some of it's really overt. But everybody brings a love of cars to the event.
Yes.
Everybody brings their sense of enjoyment. Well, unless you don't enjoy it, in case you don't come back, which is perfectly okay, because we probably didn't enjoy you either. I mean, there's people that are enduring, that are friends, more friends,
Yes.
but I really do look forward to seeing everybody, whether it's new people or old people. And no, but I'd be lying if I thought one group was more memorable or better than anybody else.
Yes, and that's a lovely political answer.
No,
but
it's true. I mean, if I hate somebody, I'll tell you. But
I know that part. But what I'm asking you is this. So we have you on this forum now, of which you admittedly don't do very many of. Well, I'm asking for you to pick not your favorite child, but the most memorable youth that you can come up with from 41 years. The one that if somebody were to say, what is one team that encapsulates the one that you can recall and that you can remember, what would that be?
I mean, no. No, whether we've had. No, I mean, that's that's even worse than picking your favorite child.
See?
Yeah, and which, it's easy for me because I only have one. But what's your favorite child, Solomon?
The one which is bothering me the least.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Talia.
Well, yeah,
Right.
I guess I would probably say that too.
See?
Yeah.
So who has bothered you the least over 41 years?
Yeah. One of our new competitors said,
I guess
I guess I can, since I got in, I can stop bothering you. And I said, that's not going to happen. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, I get another email. I guess I'm bothering you again.
All right. Well, keep ruminating on that one. Maybe we'll go back to that if one pops up. Maybe not. All right, Brian, go for it, since I've struck out on there.
Well, this one's similar. What was your favorite driver to show up that did the event one time and did not return? Someone that really stuck out, that was amazing, and they did it once and hung it up.
I'd have to go look him up. Because my brain is standard toast. But there was a gentleman, a couple of guys from Puerto Rico, that showed up in 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little longer. The year we ran Mobile Speedway.
The Porsche?
In a little Porsche 911.
Yeah, okay.
And he was an Indy Lights driver. And I was sitting there in the death camp at turn 4, waiting to die, running traffic. And there was no guardrail, with no nothing. And I watched that guy drive the wheels off that car.
Jose Collado?
No. Collado was he ran a Viper. I want to say it's not Carlos. It's Alvarez. I mean, but anyway, he's Puerto Rican. He lives in Puerto Rico now. He resumed racing past recently. But a gentleman of the first rank, but just drove the fucking wheels. I mean, he was, within a couple of inches of the mirror every lap on the thing, and did very, very well in a relatively slow car. And that's one guy that stands out, that showed up once, had some fun, disappeared. So,
Alfonso Diaz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the one. Yes.
Yep. He was a nice guy. That's right.
But he just blistered Mobile Speedway. Jesus. Scared the shit out of me. Anyway.
Fair enough. All righty. So, Brian, why don't you go again, because I got some more extensive ones coming up for the
okay.
For those.
All right, so we got your favorite one there. Out of all the pro drivers that have done the event over the years, you've got Hurley, Price Cobb, Steve Saleen. Who do you think was one of the best of the professional drivers that grabbed hold of the spirit of one lap and took it to heart?
Well, David Murray has the enduring quote that I use, that one lap is an 8/10 event, because he did win it. He won it easily back in when everybody was bringing stock cars, and he was a gentleman. The second time he came back, he decided that all the cars were cheating and the best he could do was third place. But he was extraordinarily good. Elliott Forbes Robinson fit in very, very well. Price Cobb also. Hurley was not really that gregarious. I don't remember PJ Jones when he was here. Apparently Jeff Andretti ran at one point too. Elliott Forbes Robinson will probably stand out as just the nicest, winner driver I've probably run into. Although, but anyway, go on.
Okay. So let's have a little fun. So, no, that's the famous no. All right. So we're going to do a little word association. Very simple. First word that comes to mind.
Good.
Yeah, this will be great.
It'll come out as a 4-letter association. So,
you know what? Again, not marked for kids, so it doesn't matter. Have at it.
All right. Well, you do what you send your best.
All right. I got 6 words for you. Okay. Howard. Got to giggle.
I mean, in one word. Whacked.
What's that?
Whacked.
Whacked. Okay.
I mean, I love Howard, but I mean, years ago we were at a radio station, Brock and I, and we were doing an interview about one lap, and I saw a whole bunch of Howard stickers for that awful Howard Stern, and so I grabbed a fistful of them, and I put them on all the cars that I knew were going to follow Howard to the strip bars. And sure enough, I was right. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Gippers.
Who?
Gippers.
Giffers?
Gippers.
I mean, that awful
Gippers.
bar?
Yes.
Huh?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Gippers. Oh, yeah. I mean, that was a great bar. It was the last bar in the country I was able to smoke in.
How did
I
it go
mean,
from awful to great?
I mean, it's an awful bar. I mean, but I there's something special about awful bars. I mean, I'm not allowed in civilized company, obviously, and I feel more comfortable in a dive bar. So, no, it did everything it was supposed to do. It served drinks, and we had a lot of fun there, and we were allowed to do pretty much whatever we wanted. So that was, other than the fact that the hotel was decaying in front of us.
And under us and around us, and anytime you close the door and cause the vibration,
and seems to be accelerating while we were gone.
Well, I mean, so much so that it's fallen down completely over the years.
It's bad when it takes me 3 rooms to find one I can stay in.
That is bad.
Because I have very low standards. Anyway,
we're aware. Okay. Challenger.
Well, the Challenger is lost for me. It was supposed to be mine. I grew up with the car. It's the first car I went 100 miles an hour in. I drove it twice in one lap. I drove it across country. I repaired it. I spent a lot of money making sure it was right. I drove it, for the King of Speed, the Idris Elba special. And yeah, I felt a very special connection to it. It's sold. It lives down near Sebring, and bought by a lovely man his wife wanted it. And I believe they're driving it often, and the car needs to be driven often. And I'd rather them have it than me, because I'm not, as anybody knows me, I'm not really qualified to own a nice car. So it's in good hands.
Excellent. All right.
Lee, can you mute me for a second?
You can mute yourself. I mean, I can. Let's see here.
I don't know
if I can. Mute participant. I can do that. There we go. I've muted you.
Okay. Am I muted?
No.
Apparently not, but you're supposed to be. Now you are. So here's a lovely look of Brock as he talks with his kin. As he chats. So if you are watching, all 3 of you right now in your mother's basements in your underwear, as Brock usually says,
seriously,
there's a Q&A. Well, we can hear you. There's a Q&A.
Okay.
If you go there, and feel free to type a question and ask. We were just referencing the 3 people watching from their mother's basements right now, that if they would like to ask a question, feel free to do so.
People. Oh, it's 3 of us.
There's 3 of us, Brock. There we go. Right. So, the good news is that this is recorded, because I know some people could not be here to watch tonight.
Sure.
So we will upload this. And
hold on one second. Hold on.
Yep. Brock is going back to being a father for right now. So yes, please feel free to ask a question and have at it.
All right.
We'll add in bad lip reading on the back end of this one.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll run it through the AI and see.
Real life is interfering. I've got cars in my driveway. Nobody knows who they are.
Nice. Maybe they're painters to finish the wall behind you.
I've actually thought about that, but instead I've hired a guy to paint my shop.
Can he start inside and move his way out to the shop?
It's a family show.
Okay. So it is and it isn't. I mean, we're a dysfunctional family. It's fine. All right. So we got 3 more words. Minivan.
Underrated. Especially since I'm going to have, every time I have a minivan and I run the pace lap of the wet skid pad, I still beat half the field.
We spoke about this with Randy. I don't know if you caught that one, but there's a hypothesis, and it's probably somewhat true, that just because of the all seasons that are normally on them, they heat up fairly quick and they're so thin that they displace the water well, and the weight transfer really helps you. So that probably is one of the better vehicles to do it in.
Well, that is primarily. I mean, it's certainly not that I'm a high skilled driver, but certainly the cold temperatures in the all seasons do help. But I can still beat Randy car for car.
I mean,
so
can a gnat. Apparently, I
Yeah.
mean, Randy does not do well in skin pads.
I did manage to make a Tesla handle, so despite their best guesses, so
that came up during our discussion as well. So
Yes, it did.
Your skid pad skills are legendary about going in circles. So that's
I'm not good at much else. So
okay. Internet.
Fuck the internet.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes, it's like that line, we have in our hands the entire knowledge of the world, and we choose to fight and look at cat pictures. So anyway,
I was betting that you were just going to say sideways. Turn the whole thing sideways. Read it that way.
Might as well.
So
go on.
If the next one was Wi-Fi, I'd say terrible at your house. Okay, next one. The final word. One lap. See, my word one. It's we've lost you, Brock. You're there we go.
Bird.
No, we lost you again. Your internet, it was spotty to say the least. You're back, yeah. So let's go again. One lap.
Oh, okay. One lap. Silly.
There you go.
You look. It's one of those that you go to a cocktail party and somebody says, "What did you do on your summer break?" They left the body or they run. It's just. It's a great event, but it takes a special kind of weird to think it's fun.
No doubt. All right, Brian, go for it.
Special kind of weird. Okay. So I put something out today to get participants to ask a question to Brocker, and I really only got one. And the question is from Brad Minton. What is your favorite car to have ever run the one lap, and why is it a Mini?
I wish we could see you laughing. There we go. You unfroze now. There you
go. Because the Mini is the world's best car. That's why. It's. As far as the cars that I drove at one lap, besides the Mini, or the best cars that I've seen at one lap.
I think he meant that you've seen, because I know yours was like the Fit. You loved that car and all the others, but I think he means seen.
No, there's full of of weird cars, of silly cars, of fast cars. Yes, we've had Ferraris and Lamborghinis and not tricycles. Honda Tri-Wings, anyway, they're awful. You name it, we had. Sorry?
Try to remembers.
That was in the 80s. Yeah. But there's a few standouts. There's the Ford Pinto with the 302 in there. That was done wrong. That's historically one of my favorite cars. The more creative, the more weird, the more out of the box, the more I enjoy them. Anybody can go out and buy horsepower. nobody can go out and buy fun. And well, it was fun for that reason. I think the Rambler's coming back too.
Yep. Well, we got most of that answer. I think we're nearly exhausting your internet cap for the month at your house. But it's because you are frozen in a very stoic pose right about now on our screens. So we can get a screenshot of that all together. So sort of tilting the
That's
head
the
there.
All right, well, you're on your own there. I don't care.
So make sure your pants are on when it comes back. So moving into sort of the latter part of this now. The event messaging for the one lap. So what it started as, what it is currently, and as it moves forward. Has it remained the same? Has it changed? What elements have remained the same, and what elements have changed?
One lap evolved quickly from a lark to a rally to a quasi competition to a competition. And the competition is ramped up over the years. Well, so is the availability of aftermarket and fast cars. I assume it'll continue to evolve. In which direction, I don't know. I'm sure that market forces will play a part. I'm sure technologies will play a part. We're going to see more and more electric vehicles. We're going to see, I think, some restrictions on ability of cars in the relatively near future. What form it'll take, it doesn't really matter because there'll still be cars on track doing the best they can with what they have. What happens with the event as far as the expansions or growth, I don't know. That'll all wait to be seen.
Okay. All right, Brian, last one for you, and then I'll try and wrap it up after that.
Wow, that I actually don't have anything. Because I was going to kind of go down the same avenue you were about the future of the event and what you would like to see in the future with the cars, the tracks, the travel distances, etc.
Everybody knows that I tend to be very paternal about the event. I worry about everybody. I want everybody to, go fast, have fun, take chances, but survive the week. And as a curmudgeon of the first rank, and somebody, periodically I sound like my father because he always would say, there's no good drivers except in Indianapolis. I'm starting to feel that driving as an art is becoming lost, and it's being replaced by computers and machines and the actual skill set required to move a car around through a corner smoothly, quickly to the limits of adhesion is being lost. Anybody can go out and buy themselves a 600-700 pound Mustang and go relatively quickly. However, it's going to take probably 10 times as much money in parts and practice to get anywhere near 10/10 of that car. It's going to cost a lot of money because you're going to step over, and when you step over, it's going to hurt. Meanwhile, in a slow car, you can approach that 10/10 with the same enthusiasm at a much slower speed, and that's where the driving comes in. There's not. I was at the T-Mobile today, and I was getting, my new phone because I dropped the other one, and I look at the kids and I said, they said, "What's your car?" And I said, "It's the Kia over there." And he says, "Oh yeah," and I said, "Yeah, it's a 6-speed. It's got the millennial theft proof on it." And he said, yeah, none of us have 3 guys there. None of them could drive a manual. And then, driving a manual is one thing. Driving it well is another thing altogether. And there's not 1% of the population now that can match a shift up or down. Heel and toe is a lost art. Shifting without a clutch is something that, you might as well ask somebody to guess the weight of the moon. It's just not something that it is people understand. And that to me is unfortunate. Oh yes, we got floppy paddles and we have little lights that come on to say, oh yeah, the car righted itself, without you, because you're too stupid to realize what was going on. So what we're doing is we're creating generations of people that are going to go faster, of course, but they're going to crash harder without the same set of skills.
So let's dive into that for a second, because it's an interesting topic, I think. So is it that, yes, we are losing a certain set of skill set, but has a different set of skills replaced it? I'll give you an example. While cars become more technologically advanced, and yes, there are benefits and drawbacks to both. I mean, old bias ply tires, shifting, things going wrong, things of that nature. Yes. However, is there a different type of competitive driver emerging, one that has a higher capacity for things that are going on during a race and to handle different things in a car with more sophisticated electronics? Take any car with a modern.
Because what you have is sophisticated electronics that are doing the work for you.
Well, yes and no, right?
Yeah, no. What you're just you're steering now. You're not driving the car.
Let's take a look at, for example, at the highest form of motorsport, Formula One. Okay, so let's take that for an example. What they're doing on the steering wheel, changing brake biases, changing sort of the balance of the vehicle, and they have to do that while they're driving at full speed, managing the tires, no traction control there. But they also then have to have the capacity, the mental acuity, to be able to sort of call the race, understand it, what's going on, look at the displays. So are we creating a different kind of driver?
Well, first of all, those are the peak of the skill set.
Right.
Those guys would be fast in a deux chevaux and a Formula One car and everything in between. And my guess is most of them are fully capable of driving a manual car with great skill. And
nope. Last year they did a survey of the paddock. 60% of the drivers in the paddock did not know how to drive a standard transmission car.
I'm betting on Alonso every year. I don't care.
Oh, yeah, I mean, but he's been around since the dinosaurs, so yes.
I mean, that's sad. I mean, I hate shit like that because, yes, they're very, very good, but I will, again, if when that shit stops, when a little toggle doesn't work, could they still do that?
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of it is still.
I mean, it becomes a crutch. Do you think Jimmy Stewart or Dan Gurney would need all that shit to go fast in 1968?
But Dan Gurney wouldn't go as fast as the current cars are. And do you think Dan Gurney would be able to hop into a more modern vehicle and be competitive with all the other tasks that have to take place? So I guess the question is,
it's a siege, and there's he had a tack, he had a shifter, 3 pedals, and a steering wheel. That's all he had. And he didn't have a steering wheel to maximize every corner at every place. It's just like the golf has changed. Would Sam Snead beat most amateurs with wooden clubs today? Yes.
No. I'll let Brian answer that because I know nothing about golf apart from that there's a dimpled ball involved.
Okay, Sam Snead had walnut clubs.
Okay.
And he would still, Hickory. That's right. Yeah. And he'd still kick everybody's ass because it's not how hard you hit it, it's where you hit it. And it's, and golf, I mean, racing driving is a skill. Yes, you can attune it to the equipment you have, but is something being lost? Is there something lost in translation? You know, do most drivers, when that little yellow light comes on, they don't know which tire is slipped or why.
Mm-hmm.
And all they know is the light came on.
Right.
And sometimes they didn't crash.
Yes.
And sometimes that light comes on and they can't do it anymore. And
I
because
certainly
you haven't stepped through that process, you don't have the right skill set to react.
I certainly won't argue that there is I think so. Going back to what you had initially said at the beginning of this, the art of driving is something that is being lost. I think that a different type of driver is emerging because they need to come to grips with more modern vehicles and modern technology. But the art of understanding the basics of slip angles, of adhesion, of all that is lost quite a bit because there are other crutches out there. So that I won't argue.
Nobody's read Cafaro. I mean, and nobody's read The Art of Driving. I mean, we kind of drive around and maybe you've got some remedial understanding of lines and again slip angles. Maybe you've got an understanding of what cars do when they're at the limits. That's one of the things I think that allows me to do the skid pad so well is I can feel that limit.
Well, that's because you don't wear shoes.
Well, sometimes I have to wear shoes. But it's a feeling that it doesn't come from, you don't get it automatically. It's something that you sense, and you're talking about tires moving a millimeter or two that you're sensing, that yes, it's pushing, or yes, it's not. I mean, and those are the things that I think that, describe, not that I'm a good driver, describe better drivers than the rest. So, whether or not it's fair, I don't care. That's the way,
Good debate there. Well, as we get into the end of this, Brock, I'd like to give you the final word here before we wrap up. So I guess what is your parting sentiment, parting wisdom for this interview, and as we move into this year's One Lap of America, we will be descending in a week from tomorrow at the Four Winds Casino in South Bend, right?
Well, first of all, I'm glad I don't have to do another interview for a whole year.
Oh no, we'll get you during the event, so that's
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
you're welcome.
We have a daily dose of Brock coming up next week.
Exactly.
Yeah, but sadly my wife won't be
Brockgasm.
around for the proof of life video. But anyway, no, I mean, One Lap is special to me. It's special to a lot of people. I look forward to seeing everybody. I want everybody to have a good time. I want everybody to play nice, be safe, finish with a smile. That's all I want. I don't want to. I can't shut it off.
What is going on?
I set the alarm for 7:55, not 6:55.
Oh. Well, hurry up and log in for the interview. That explains a lot now. Old man flummoxed by technology.
Who dis? New phone.
If I was smart, I wouldn't be doing this.
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did that hurt?
A little. It's okay.
Yeah.
So you were saying you're looking forward to seeing everybody before your phone decided to go crazy.
In stereo, by the way. The broken phone, because I can't shut it off, because I can't get to a screen that says shut it off, and the new phone, I don't know where the fuck it got that number. But anyway, I want everybody, to get around the country, have some fun, see the world, laugh, smile, giggle, make more friends, That's really what it's about. Life, be nice to people, express some joy.
There we go. You heard it straight from the Brock's mouth. That's your daily Brockasm, and we'll bring you more throughout the one lap this year. It's Brock. We've been waiting to get you on here, and it didn't disappoint. That's for sure.
I hope not to disappoint through the course of the week, although I probably will be somewhat more animated.
And if you want to see him really animated, bring a drone, throw it up in the air, and watch the fireworks go.
Actually, yeah, it'd be nice if you brought me a 30-06 with a scope, just so I can have some fun too.
Shotgun with some good duck or goose
no,
shot.
No, I want multiple shots. I'm not, I just want to shoot. I don't give a shit.
I mean, you could just put targets on the cars and have at it that way as to go and buy start finish. See.
Well, I think a paint gun would be better for that.
Oh well, we can make that happen. There's a Costco nearby.
Didn't Lemons do that one year for cars that were running amiss? Didn't they have a paint gun?
I don't know.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, we'll put a big old target on Randy's car, and we can start with that one and see if it works. So,
yeah. Okay. And I want to drive Randy's car. Never mind.
This year will be a good one. And you have driven them before, actually. At the one he's taken this year, you drove a similar one at the South Course of
at Autobahn.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. By the time I drove it, it was near dead.
Yes,
the brakes were. Well, let's say that I think you could see the warpage from space on those rotors.
Was that Jack's car or Billy's car that you hopped in?
Billy's car.
Oh yeah, well they would have been gone. Yes, 100% gone.
No, I mean it was the pedal. I mean the pedal was like, oh.
Yes. Yeah. No doubt. Well, Brock, thank you so much for joining us this evening for the event, which carries your name. And, we're
looking my father's name.
Well, it's also yours. The last time I checked. I mean, look at your underwear. What does it say?
It's dirty, turn inside out.
It says Monday or Tuesday, depending on which side it is.
Well, thank you for joining us this Wednesday for the recording. We're looking forward to catching up with you in South Bend and throughout the week as we cover and help you administer this lovely jaunt around the country that is the 2025 Tire Rack One Lap of America, presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine. With this and all coverage this year brought to you by HP Tuners. Thank you so much. With that, thanks for watching and have a great evening. Take care.
See you when you're older.
I'm going to see if I know how to stop this thing for everybody. End event.
Please, end it. I want to go home.
Now.
I can't shut it off. Fuck the internet.